Welcome to the InCred podcast.
Our speaker for today is someone who's very closer to home. He is the head of credit risk and product development for InCred Education Loans. He has over 10 years of experience in the higher education industry. And prior to InCred, he was instrumental in the launch and scale up of two other education platforms in India, which are extremely well known. And he is here to give us a first hand experience and his take on education abroad and how it has changed in these COVID times. So please join me in welcoming Nilanjan Chattoraj. Welcome, Nilanjan. Welcome to the InCred podcast. We are very happy to have you here with us. Hope you're doing great.
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Thank you for organizing this.
So, in India, we've seen the education system, the way we approach it. It's gone through a massive rehaul in the past few years. So in light of these developments, how would you still compare education in India versus education abroad?
There are some good 3-4 different reasons that I want to tell you about the India versus abroad higher education question. However, firstly, please understand that higher education, the definition of higher education is any education after your 12th or higher secondary, right? That is counted as higher education. Again, in higher education, there are different levels of education. One of the first and most common level is the undergraduation, which we also call as graduation in India, or a more common term for it is bachelor studies. And after bachelor studies, there are master studies also. And after master studies, there is doctoral studies or PhD as well. So higher education encompasses all of these different levels of education, which are education that you undertake after your 12th. So that's higher education. Now, coming to the India versus abroad question, let me start first by saying that the Indian higher education system is not bad. It is actually one of the largest in the world, considering the number of students enrolled for courses in India in the higher education segment. And also the number of colleges and universities that are present in India. So it is one of the largest education loan markets in the whole world. However, demographically speaking, that education is probably more solid in terms of quality. It's probably more robust in terms of learning outcomes at the undergraduate level. Undergraduate level, we do have a lot of IITs and regional and NITs. Earlier we had regional engineering colleges. They got changed into NITs or deemed universities. So we do have a host of technical colleges such as IITs or NITs, even private institutions such as Manipal and the Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, etc. So we do have quality education at the undergraduate level in the science, technology, engineering, mathematics kind of technical domains or subject areas. And obviously we do have a good management or business higher education segment in the form of the IIMs, ISBs, XLRIs, etc. That most Indian students take advantage of a PGDM or a MBA post their undergraduation. So although the Indian segment is it's a large sector, it is a very lot of students involved, and there seem to be good quality institutes and courses available at the undergraduate engineering or technological kind of courses. And also there are good options available for PGDM or MBA at the master's level. But that is again very related to management or business kind of degrees. Besides these two subsectors, the higher education segment in India otherwise doesn't match up to what an abroad degree can offer to you. Specifically, at the PG or master's level courses for engineering or science disciplines, India is notoriously lacking. Okay, so while there are good MBAs and PGDMs to do in the business or management disciplines, in the form of IIMs and ISVs and acceleries, etc., etc., etc. If you want to do a master's in engineering or a PhD in computer science or IT, we do not have that many options in India, and therefore, for students who are focused on doing higher education in engineering or technical domains, especially at a PG or master's level or more, they barely have any opportunities in India. So they all have to, by default, look abroad to advance their understanding of their particular domain that they are interested in, and also to make career and professional progress towards that goal, right? So this is one aspect that's lacking in the Indian higher education system. There has been a lot of talk of changing up that system, inviting foreign universities to set up campuses in India, etc., etc. And of late, in last month or so, the government have officiated some of those measures as a formal policy now. So those changes will come in, but the higher education space, you cannot change things overnight. Typically, they take a little time to get established. So I am guessing by the time India reaches a very respectable or quality kind of courses in the master's segment of engineering courses, that's another 3 to 5 to 10 years away, right? So these students who are in higher education space for engineering technical disciplines at a master's or higher level will continue to look at abroad destinations, because India mein unke liye zyada kuch hai hi nahi, right? So that's one, right? Second is the fact that historically, internationalization of education, even historically, has very proven advantages. When I say historically, what I mean is that even in medieval or ancient times, Nalanda University in current day Bihar was one of the oldest universities of humankind, right? Nalanda University in the Magadha period existed from about 500 CE to about 1500 CE, and even at that point, scholars from all over the world were traveling to Nalanda in today's Bihar to exchange ideas and to get and to absorb themselves in this very vibrant campus where people from all over the world come and exchange ideas. And in fact, Indian scholars from Nalanda were also traveling all over the world, to China, to Tibet, to Central Asia as visiting scholars to study their culture, study their scientific progresses, etc., and bring back those ideas back to India, and make the best of it. So internationalization of a higher education experience has immense benefits and potentials since ancient times. And I believe that if you study in India, you miss out on that, right? On that aspect of an international degree. Even in today's world, international education or higher education abroad, if you're targeting a US or a UK or Australia, New Zealand, Germany country, you will realize that the universities that you are targeting, they're such diverse and vibrant communities where the best of ideas and brains from all over the world come, right? They come from India, they come from Pakistan, Bangladesh, China and Korea, they come from Latin America and Europe, and within US and Canada and Mexico and Africa, they come from all over the world. And by embarking on an international education, you as a student can take advantage of those ideas. The exposure that you will get by taking up an international degree is immense, and that kind of exposure and immersion into international ideas from very different cultures and different countries, that advantage a purely India-based degree will not bring to you. Okay, so this is the other reason why I slightly favor a higher education degree overseas rather than studying all your attaining all your education objectives in India, because if you study in India, these are the kind of other benefits that you may miss out on. Okay. Also, by studying overseas, what happens is it helps in your and this may be applicable to within India course also, but far away from home. Um, uh, 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 Taking a higher education degree while staying at home comes with the benefit of having your family support structure to help you with those college or university semesters, because your mom will cook for you, your dad will pay your fees, you just have to do your homework and take your exams, etc., etc. Now that is a comfort zone. I always
True.
recommend students, I always recommend everybody to get out of their comfort zones. That's how they grow in life. That's how they become stronger in life. And by taking a higher education degree far away from your house, or even in a different country, brings a unique set of challenges for that student. And these challenges are, you don't have the family framework and support system to help you every day, every hour, right? You are on your own. You will have to tackle all these outside of class issues on your own as well. And these issues will range from opening a bank account to cooking dinner and lunch for you to doing your laundry, all of that, plus doing your homework and taking exams and taking classes. While initially these may create a set of challenges for an individual, over a period of time these become very good learning experiences, and that individual is constantly problem solving inside of class and then outside of class. And by indulging in so much problem solving and overcoming so many obstacles in life, essentially that person becomes a more hardened and more mature individual who's able to solve problems in a much better fashion, once their degrees are over. So these are some of the unsaid benefits of a higher education degree overseas or far away from home. And if you are hell-bent on staying home and studying, then these may be some of the unsaid advantages one may miss out on. And lastly, materialistically, or in terms of objectifiable gain, obviously an abroad degree gives you a much better return on investment. The kind of salaries that you get, you also earn in dollars or in euros. So obviously you end up, from a conversion standpoint, you end up making much more. But even in the absence of a forex angle to this, the kind of salaries that engineers get in the US after doing a MS in computer science or mechanical engineering, the kind of salaries they get are usually in the ballpark area of 100,000 US dollars or more per annum, which is about 70 to 80 lakhs per annum. So for a 25, 26, 27-year-old student to get a package of 70 or 80 lakhs, that's a astounding amount of money at that at an early phase in your career. And that kind of money and material gain, Indian jobs will typically not end up giving you. After you complete an Indian degree. So by moving abroad and completing a degree abroad and then picking up a job abroad, you will materially also gain much more than what you can gain probably by staying just in India. Obviously, the knowledge transfer that happens overseas is also very strong. And the knowledge transfer is very strong is because overseas courses are very hands-on and circled around the industry needs and the needs of the hour, and they're very cutting edge. And there's a lot of research that happens in these degrees where you do research for a corporation or for a government agency. And therefore the knowledge transfer or the kind of skill set that you pick up at the end of a abroad higher education degree is on average, the amount of skill set you pick up is in my opinion much greater than the knowledge transfer that will happen through on average through a purely Indian degree. So to sum it up, on your India versus abroad question, while India is doing good, there is still there is still a lot of room for improvement, specifically in certain areas that I have pinpointed. And those are the areas where Indian students will definitely keep looking at overseas universities to fulfill their professional and educational goals. And also these universities and countries come with a lot of advantages such as international exposure, material gain, etc., etc. So to sum it up, I am slightly preferring an abroad degree over an Indian degree at this point in time.
Right. That was very detailed, Nilanjan. In fact, the point that you brought about the entire Nalanda University, that's in fact quite insightful. I wasn't aware of that, and I'm sure many of our listeners also will probably be unaware of this. So that was a great point. There's another thing that you mentioned that was very interesting was the whole aspect of the return on investment piece. So as you mentioned, the starting salary for someone in the STEM field who's pursuing education abroad is much higher, is multifold compared to that in India. How would you compare even the cost of living? As you rightly mentioned, being in India, being with your family, your support system is higher, and so is your expenditure, because there are many things that you end up not spending on, right? Whereas if you are abroad, and you're living there, you're starting life there, your work life, your cost of living is also higher. So if I look at the net savings, or if I look at the net returns, is it more or less similar, or would I still see a stark difference in India versus abroad?
That's a good point. The cost of living expenses, etc., is definitely somewhat higher in the US or European countries compared to what it's in India. But hey, there is a little bit of a disclaimer here, is that it's not that significantly lower. Okay, a matter of fact, living expenses in a city like Bombay today is very, very comparable to, say, Houston or Dallas, Texas, or even some parts of New York. So Bombay costs as much as some parts of New York does, right? And my assumption will be that the metros in India, if not as expensive, and it is not an assumption, it is more of a fact or a known concept, that the cost of living in Indian metros of Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, they are more or less the same. I think Bombay and Delhi are higher than the rest, but they are more or less the same. So in fact, the cost of living in Indian cities is far lower than Western cities of US, Canada, or UK. Is a misnomer. It is not correct. Okay. Yes, if you go to a tier 2, tier 3 city in India or a rural town, the costs are significantly lower. I will give you that. But urban city life, if you compare the costs, they are not that different. Okay. So that's one. Second is let's take an example. So when I made these statements, I was talking about the average. There will definitely be outliers or a small portions of this population for who the statements you made may end up being true, that at the end of the day, the money they will make minus the expenses, etc., that they will have in that country will come down to pretty much the same amount that they would have made in India by attending a little bit of a cheaper degree or a cheaper college. Okay. So that may hold true for, say, 10-20% of the population, but on average, I don't think that assumption will hold true. Also, the purported cost of a foreign degree, again, the assumption there is that the foreign degree cost is really, really, really high. However, it's not. If you compare it to an Indian degree, an Indian MBA these days from a premier MBA institute such as IIM Ahmedabad or ISB, it's about 30 lakh rupees for the degree, 25 to 30 lakh rupees.
Yes.
25 to 30 lakh is the same amount of money you will spend for a 2-year MS degree at a top 100 university in the US. And when I say top 100 university in the US, I mean they are of superlative quality institutes, because US has 4,000 universities. मैं उसका top 100 बोल रहा हूँ, right? And they are not just from a numerical sense, but if you go through those 100 university ka list, you will understand that all of them are very, very high quality, high caliber institutes. So even the cost at a top institute there on average will come to no more than 25 to 30 lakh. So again, the myth that an Indian degree is way cheaper than a US degree is also not true. It's a myth. Okay. Again, there are some outliers on this. There are certain US degrees such as a MBA from a top school such as Harvard or Stanford, MIT, will cost you probably 1 crore rupees. But again, that's an outlier, right? Typically, the MS courses, and MS is what we were talking about earlier, because MBA mein India mein fir bhi there is some scope, but in MS there seems to be very low scope. So if I take the MS degree in US, on average 25 to 30 lakhs are not much over that. Okay. And now what does this 25 lakh to 30 lakh will give you. The 25 lakh that you will invest in your MS degree in the US will give you a job in the range, depending on the degree and the college and all of that. The 25 lakh investment will get you to a job of, say, around 100,000 US dollars per annum, which is about 75 lakh rupees. So that 25 lakh rupees you invested, you came out with a 75 lakh rupee package on average by investing 25 lakhs, right? Now let me compare that to an Indian scenario. Say you go to ISB, or you go to any institute and invest 25 lakhs on a program of 1 year or 2 year. Do you think on average those students get a 75 lakh package in India?
No, definitely not.
No. Yeah, exactly. So I think 75 lakh will be the highest package that somebody may get from that particular batch. But typically ISB ka placements, which is about 25 lakh rupees, ISB placements and these packages, my best assumption will be their packages on average will be 30 to 40 lakhs at the most, and not more than that, right?
Right.
Is that a correct assumption? 30 to 40
I think
lakhs,
so.
right?
I think so too, because honestly, so
Yeah.
I was also an ISB aspirant. I was hell bent on studying in ISB.
Okay.
But luckily,
Okay.
not. It didn't. That effort didn't result in a positive conclusion. But from what I've heard, even from my peers, I think these numbers are pretty much what's out there. So
InCred doesn't do India loans, so I don't have current data on it. But in my previous organizations, we did have my previous organizations being two other special education loan platforms of HDFC Credila and Avance. In both those organizations, we had these products for India courses, including ISB. And some of the assumptions I made in terms of salary are based on the data and information I had at those organizations, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you are validating it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, same 25 lakhs invested in US may get you a 70 to 75 lakh CTC package at the end of the course, whereas in India it will get you max to max 35 to 40 lakh, which is about half of what you will get there, right?
Right.
So while the question you proposed technically is very sound, but if you get down to the nitty-gritties and do the very fundamental and empirical calculations on that statement, you will understand that your statement is inherently flawed. And it is inherently flawed because it is just a concept among the Indians कि बाहर का पढ़ाई में बहुत ज्यादा खर्चा होगा, बेटर इंडिया में ही पढ़ लो और कम खर्चा करो और सैलरी थोड़ा कम मिले तो भी अच्छा है. So that's a myth, right? And that's what I'm trying to debunk, right? Lastly, what I can say is the cost is definitely one, but all the other angles of a broad degree of being on your own and mixing with people from all over the world and maturing and becoming an independent, thought-provoking, matured person in a very short period of time, that non-quantifiable advantage also vanishes.
So Nilanjan, this brings me to my next question. Since we're talking about the average cost of studying abroad, so is it something obviously there are companies like InCred, there is Credila that you mentioned. Does it make sense, or is it because people have a prejudice against taking loans? It's the Indian mentality. They don't prefer taking loans. It's been there. I've seen that. I've heard that. So do education loans, what would be your take on this, on taking a loan to fund your education and fulfill your dreams of studying abroad?
Sure. It's a good question, and let me tell you that back in the 90s when I went abroad for my late 90s, actually 99, pretty much 2000, that was about 20 years ago when I was trying to go for a higher education overseas. I faced immense challenges, insurmountable challenges to get my financing done through banks. Actually, I couldn't get it. And because of that, I had to drop 1 year and go the next year. And in fact, I had to settle for I had to settle for a second tier university because the first year university, the costs were very high and I couldn't afford it. And that was even after me having a very substantial scholarship, right? So 99, 2000 tak, it was very, very difficult to get education loans in India. And you are right that till about that stage, Indians who were going to study overseas typically came from affluent or financially strong backgrounds or families.
Yes,
Those
true.
were the, or you were going for a PhD program to the US where the PhD was fully funded by the university, right? And therefore you were going for a PhD degree. यही दो option थे. जो बच्चे बाहर जाते थे, either family funded or a PhD scholar on a full scholarship, right? Now that has significantly changed over the last 2 decades. The change started coming in early 2000s when RBI floated its education loan proposal, its model education loan scheme, and encouraged banks to give out education loans. That's where an uptick in education loans in India started happening, but they were primarily through nationalized or PSU banks. Around 2007-8, Credila came in as the first specialized education loan player in the market. And although Credila faced some difficulties the first 2-3 years because the market and the Indian mentality was that पढ़ाई के लिए loan नहीं लेना है, and अगर लेना है loan, then we will take a student loan from the bank and not from a private company, right? So Credila faced some challenges there initially. But then 2010-11 and leading up to 2019, the Indian market and the Indian families and students have completely opened up to specialized players like Credila and InCred. And because Credila and InCred are in the space now, and I don't know about Credila, but at least at InCred, our goal is to ensure that if you are a good student and going from a promising course and you have a promising future, you get the loan regardless of your parents' financial background, right? That's our model, that if you're a good student, nothing should stop you from achieving your dreams. So
True.
With that model in mind, companies like InCred has definitely made a lot of strides in covering that only affluent families can go abroad question mark, right? That we were facing leading up to the 2000s or 2010s. So what we have essentially done is we have democratized education, and we have made sure that if you are a good student with a good GRE, GMAT score or good academic record, getting admitted to a top university anywhere in the world, we have made sure that you get the money to go and achieve your dreams. Doesn't matter if your father is very rich or very poor, etc., etc. So from that sense, yes, players like InCred and Credila being in the foray now is adding a lot of advantage and a lot of benefit to these students who are trying to pursue overseas education. Also, what I want to remind everyone is that although higher education is expensive and it's a cost, and that cost seems to be increasing day by day, one shouldn't look at higher education money as a cost. They should look at it as an investment, because that's what it is. It is the best investment. Yeah, it is the best investment one can ever make in their entire life. And it is that investment which will give you material and non-material gain for the rest of your lives. It is not a home that you will sell in 5 years. It is not a car that you will sell in 5 years, or engine will go bust in 5 years. It is education loan is not an expense. Investing in higher education is an investment. And so look at it that way, because this investment will give you so much dividends in the long run that the cost angle will simply go away.
Okay, thanks, Nilanjan. That was a very insightful point that you made. I agree. It's nothing short of an investment in the future. So this brings me to the last question, which is given the situation that we are in, with many universities switching to a hybrid model of education, with COVID being around, and we still don't know for how long it's going to be there with us. Does education abroad still make sense for especially an Indian student who is probably taking a loan, putting his life savings into this and going for the education abroad? With these
unprecedented times, does foreign education still make sense to pursue right now, or should one hold until things get better?
Okay, great question. In short, the appeal and the benefits of a higher education will simply never go away. In fact, the number one way to advance your career or to alleviate yourself from poverty, the number one way to tackle these problems is higher education. And while India doesn't keep a lot of data on what higher education degrees are actually materialistically or in a quantifiable manner, what they are actually resulting in a individual person's career. While India doesn't keep data like that, this kind of data is kept by Western countries. And in the US, the data shows that people who just do high school uh, earn 300 to 500% less than a person who does higher education, be it a bachelor's degree or master's degree. So earning a
Okay.
higher education degree in the US results in 3 to 500% more earnings within a 10-year period of completing that degree.
That's amazing.
So the material gain is just the material gain or the increase in your income levels
Mm-hmm.
by doing a advanced degree compared to a high school degree is well established, and the difference is quite significant actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you are aware, even in India, we know as a general principle that if you want to do well in life, if you want to get a good job, तो अच्छे से पढ़ाई कर लो, right?
Mm-hmm.
So get a good degree, get a good college, get good grades, and you will do well in life. And that
Yeah.
correlation of doing good in academically and getting a good degree and working hard and getting good grades, and then that translating into a good job and a happy life and a lot of money, etc. That correlation doesn't ever go away. So the appeal of higher education will never go away even with COVID. However, yes, there are temporary problems right now. And my advice to students who are planning for higher education but are stuck and feeling uncertain due to COVID is wait a bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, Let COVID come under some control. Already it's coming under control in the sense that economies and countries are opening up.
Mm-hmm.
Most countries and governments and the people of those countries are going through lockdown fatigue, and purely because of that things are opening up. Also,
Yeah.
some strides are being made in controlling the virus. We know the virus better now. A vaccine is in the works. It will probably be a year or two before it comes, but it will come at one stage. So
Mm-hmm.
till some control is coming over the virus, till it is totally under control or 80-90% under control, there will be some certain uncertainty related to higher education overseas. So my advice to such students who are stuck in this limbo right now, ki, should I go for higher education in the middle of pandemic or should I not? Though it is a very, very individual level question and it depends on that individual's goals, that study plans, which country are they going to, because COVID also is a very country specific thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Initially when COVID started, it was very, very rampant in Europe, in Italy, France, Germany, etc.
Yep.
Then it got under control there, and it shifted to the US, specifically New York and the East Coast. That came under control, but then later it spread to other regions of the US. So it's constantly shifting the hotspots of COVID. India was, 80,000 infections in a month. Now it's like 90,000 infections every day. So even India
Yeah.
has become much worse. So because of those
Mm-hmm.
changing dynamics, it becomes a very individual level question कि आप कौन से country में पढ़ने जा रहे हो, कौन से city में, which degree is your college, what kind of facilities is your college giving to you, etc. Very,
Mm.
very individual level question. But my general advice to such students is defer your admission. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
defer the admission, and in the 1 year or 2 years deferral period, when by when you have deferred the admission, there is this intermediary period between today and the new admission date. In this 1 or 2 years, do an online course, do internships, do some
Mm-hmm.
research, pick up a part-time job, write some stuff, do whatever creative you can, pick up a new hobby, do some volunteer work, there are a lot of things you can do. Okay. Make constructive use of this 1-2 years, and then it will not matter to you in the long run that you lost out on 1 or 2 years, right? So if you, my general advice is defer the admission, go next year, things will be under control then. And in that 1 year time frame, pick up some creative stuff like doing some online certifications, learning a new programming language, doing some internships or volunteer work, etc., right? And foreign universities do not care about gap years because it's a very normal thing for them. They care about what you did in that gap year. So if you have 3 years of gap years and those 3 years you are sitting at home and watching Netflix, the university will have an issue. But in those 3 years, if you were working or doing research or publicating journals, etc., the university sees that as a plus point, right? So they don't have any issue. So this is my common advice to everybody. Is general advice is, it is a very personal thing. So evaluate your situation and understand what you want to do. If you are not being able to decide, it may be a good idea to defer your admission. Okay. Now, also, other than deferral, there is obviously this online or hybrid kind of classes that have come up. Hybrid classes are still okay, in my opinion. A purely online class, for me at least, it doesn't make sense, because the appeal of an abroad education is definitely being on campus there and mixing with those diverse ideas from all over the world, right? Those aspects. So, and the price you pay for that 25 lakhs you will pay for a 2-year MS, a lot of it is related to that experience you will get on campus. So if you're doing an online course where that experience is going away completely, you shouldn't end up paying 25 lakhs for an online course. That's a very heavy price to pay for an online delivery of a course without any on-campus module involved in it. So you can go for an online course, but be sure not to pay the whole tuition. If college is charging entire tuition fee, 100% tuition fee for an online course, then maybe you should rethink. Okay. So this is what I can say on deferral, online class and hybrid class. Obviously, short-term disruptions have happened. The academic calendar this year has gone a little haywire, semester starting late, or on hybrid model or on online. But generally, the good news is most of these foreign countries, along with the universities, have more or less taken a favorable stance towards international students. They are helping them get money from the government. If that student doesn't have any money or any savings or anything, and no job to pay for their food, etc., then in certain countries like Canada and Ireland, these students are eligible to get about $1,000 from the government to keep themselves floated throughout the lockdown phase. So governments have taken a favorable stance. Yeah, universities definitely have taken favorable stance. Some universities allowing online classes. Some are saying you can join later on. Some are saying reduce tuition fee because of online. So international students are very treasured by the universities and also by the countries, not only because they bring a lot of money and revenue stream to those colleges, but they are also a source of skilled labor supply for those governments.
So true.
Yeah, and just to give you the example of the US, Indian students pump in $5 billion to the US economy, $6 billion to the US economy every year. $6 billion is about 45,000 crore rupees that Indian students pump into the US economy every year.
That's
and if you combine all countries, that's a huge, there's no short change that these countries can forego, right? So besides India, if you combine all countries, I think the contribution all countries put together to US economy is about $50 billion per year to the US economy. Foreign students from all over the world, that's the kind of money they pump into the US economy. These are not small numbers that governments and universities can just forego. And therefore, because purely of these reasons, they have taken a favorable stance, right? And this will continue. There are some short-term problems coming in because of the COVID travel restrictions, health, public health concerns, quarantine. And also, lastly, there have been some political turmoil going on, especially in the US. Trump's re-election is coming up. So Trump likes to say a lot of random things and not just related to education, but related to everything. He says a lot of, if I may call it stupid, silly, perhaps more silly than stupid or both. And also very randomly, he just keeps saying things. So that has happened in the last 3 months related to US higher education and Indian students or international students. But all of those fears and worries have been put to rest. And it is political drama and nothing else. So nothing to get worried about. So there will be this short-term disruptions that are happening due to COVID. But in the long run, the higher education world will settle. And not only will they settle and go back to its original glory, I think they will surpass their original glory. And I also think it's the higher education world that will help in combating this virus and this pandemic, because they will not only be at the forefront of vaccine research, microbiological research, etc., virological virus related studies research, etc., that these universities will lead worldwide, and will push for the development of new drugs and prevention measures towards this kind of epidemics and viruses. But also there is a huge push for, so this is the new industrial revolution per se, which started already 4 or 5 years back. And this industrial revolution is more focused on artificial intelligence, automation, flying cars, self-driving cars, robotics, mechatronics, big data analytics, cloud-based technologies. So that push already came 5 years ago. COVID will only help solidify that industrial revolution. And post-COVID, say in 1, 2, 3 years time, not only will the higher education world help bail the world out of COVID and such risks in the long term, but they will also create those jobs that are required to run a successful economy in the years and decades to come, be there a COVID or no COVID in those times to come. And the jobs that are required to run the economy of the future, which are automation based jobs, AI based jobs, etc., etc., it's the universities who will not only create the curriculum to train people in those jobs, but they will actually create the labor supply needed to fulfill those jobs. So to sum it up, some disruptions temporary due to COVID in the higher education world. However, in the short to intermediate term of 2 to 3 years, the higher education world will rebound and will come out doing even better than they were doing in the pre-COVID world.
Right. Great. I think, Nilanjan, that was extremely insightful. And I do hope that eventually it is technology and the focus on AI and other forms of education that will eventually help us overcome the times that we're in. Thank you, Nilanjan. I think it's been an absolute delight to have this podcast with you. And I'm sure every listener will enjoy it as much as I did having the conversation with you. So great. Thank you so much, Nilanjan. Thanks for your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.